Hello, For the Love book clubbers. Welcome.
Woo!
Week 1. This is so fun. Okay, so you could be
Totally.
watching by yourself. You could be with a room of your girlfriends. We don't care.
No, whatever.
Whatever you want to do.
Yeah. It could be like 2 in the morning. It could be
Nursing a baby.
oh, totally
Yeah.
right. 1 in the afternoon.
Doesn't matter.
It's a free country.
Yeah. But if you're joining us live, we're so happy you can watch it back whenever you want as well. So let's.
You know what? This is what we say to you.
We toast
Cheers.
you. Cheers.
We say welcome to the For the Love Book Club, and we are so happy you're here. Wine
We're so glad.
optional.
Yes,
but
octi, whatever you want. So this is week 1, and this is going to be fun.
Yeah,
We're going
it
to
is.
spend the next 4 weeks going through all the different sections of your book,
Yeah.
For the Love,
Yeah.
which congrats.
Thank you.
Wonderful book. I'm a
Thank you.
fan.
It was so fun to write.
Yeah. Well, I'm Jamie Ivy, friend of yours.
Okay. Yep. This
Friend
is
of
my
yours.
good friend Jamie, and we're going to be together for all 4 weeks, and we're connecting with you online. We're connecting with your pictures and with your tweets, and we've taken your questions, and we are just loving you from afar. So this is going to be our butts in these seats for the next 4 weeks, unpacking all the things that we care about
All
in
the
this book.
things. Yes, and we want you to tweet us all kinds of stuff.
Yep.
So use the hashtag FTL Book Club.
Yep.
And then send us questions. We cannot wait to hear from you because you are the readers of this book, and Jen wants to talk to you about your questions. And so,
Yes, and I just want you to know how much we love you and how much we're thinking about you. When I wrote For the Love, all I could think about was groups of women getting together to talk about it. In my brain, I saw living rooms, I saw women around tables, I saw lawn chairs maybe. When I think about you sort of going through this with your friends, in your homes or your living rooms or your church, wherever, I don't even care. I'm just tickled to death. I love it. I feel like putting honest and truthful conversations in the midst of women is so healing, and it's so powerful, and it moves us forward together, and everybody rises. And so we're just tickled to get to kind of share this with you and be with you for the next 4 weeks.
and it's fun to talk about. I mean, even as I was reading
Yeah,
your
it is.
book, I'm like sending text messages to my
Yeah.
girlfriends like, hey, this is such good stuff. Let's chat about this.
Totally.
So we're going to do that right
Okay.
now. We have
Right
some
on.
questions from some readers,
Yeah.
and so they want to ask you. So here we go. Tiffany in Winter Springs, thank you for your question. This is over the first chapter of The Worst Theme Ever.
Yeah.
She says, doing life is hard. Feeding our people, keeping a house, having a great marriage, and we could both add in 17 more things to go along
For
with
real.
that. What is the first thing that we should focus on when we're trying to prioritize what's on the beam?
Yeah, I love it. I love how on the beam and off the beam has become like its own lexicon.
Right.
It's sort of like this tribal cry, off the beam. And I think it speaks to this craving that we all have, which is this. And I know I do too. Can somebody give me a formula to help my life make sense?
Right.
Right? Like my life is a cluster. All we do is like run around with chickens with our heads cut off. And somebody just tell me, like, do this, and then this, and then this, and everything will feel sane.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is there really is no formula for like a balanced life. I'm not even sure a balanced life is a real thing. I mean,
That's right. Yeah.
it's not even a real thing.
Who says what is?
What does a balanced life even mean?
Right.
I mean, so the thing is, I cannot helicopter in an answer. Now, there's like a real Christian-y answer out there that basically says, make sure your life with God is first and everything else is second. But what does that even mean? What does that mean? Like, when you get up in the morning and you're meeting 1,000 needs, what does it mean, keep your life with God first? Is God going to help me make breakfast?
Yeah, or even like putting all those facets under that.
Yeah,
Marriage, parenting, work.
right, and it implies that there's this very compartmentalized life that you're living. Like, there's your life with God, and then when you're not doing that, there's your
Right.
life as a mom, and when you're not doing that, you're a wife. But that's not realistic. That's not how life actually is. It's completely integrated. So, the best advice I can give you, because I'm not going to try to float in a formula to work in every one of our scenarios, because that's silly. Is that when I try to figure out what do I have to prioritize right now, it's completely and totally seasonal. So where am I right now? What's happening this year? What have I already said yes to? There's a fact that there's a whole chunk of our lives that is not negotiable. Like if you're a mom, you got to feed everybody.
Children.
There's
Right.
kids, you got to raise them.
Mm-hmm.
If you're a husband, or if you're a wife, there's a husband, and you have to live with them and like be a wife. A lot of us work. I mean, Jamie and I work. Your jobs have, so some things are just on. It's just there's no trying to get out of it. And so for me, once I say these are my non-negotiables, there's very little margin around outside of that. And so I think seasonal. You can look at this year and say, well, what outside of this, what brings me life? What am I good at? What do I love? What's bringing me joy? Like, I can't think of who said it, but there's a really great writer, and her question is this: what is currently saving your life? And so I think there's always the place for that question. What's currently saving your life? And see where it fits in. What this means is you're going to say no to a ton of stuff. You're going to say, I can't right now. You're going to say, maybe next year, maybe in 5 years. And there's going to be a whole host of things that you might even say, I did this last year, and I can no longer do it this year. Season. Think about your season. It's not even going to look the same maybe in 6 months.
Right.
Well,
I think about something. No, I was just thinking about seasons. I think I even told you this one time. A couple of years ago, I volunteered to lead the book fair at my kids' school.
Yes.
And it was just, I said yes. They were desperate, and so of course I feel like I need to do my duty. I have 4 kids there. It was the worst week of my life.
I know. When you told me you did that, I was like, you are insane.
Yeah. And it just didn't fit well in that season.
That's right.
But there have been seasons when I could have led the book fair, and I would have done a really good job.
That's a great point.
I did a really bad job because it was a really busy season.
Yeah.
But I let the guilt of, I have to do this because I have kids that go to school here.
Yes.
I let that put that on my beam.
Totally. One thing that has no place on the beam conversation is the word should or should not. Either one of those. Those derail a healthy schedule and a healthy life all the time, because we put too many things on because we should, even if they're impractical and poorly scheduled, or we take something off that we really love because we should not. You know, we should be giving our time away to these other things that make more sense to other people. But so if we can push that aside, which also means pushing aside guilt, obligation, coercion, I think then we're really free to make a lot of healthy choices.
Yeah, and it's your own beam.
Girl, it's your own beam. Your beam is not going to look like someone else's.
Right, yeah. It's your own beam.
Thank you, Tiffany.
There you go, Tiffany. Okay, so now you wrote about turning 40.
Right.
Turning 40.
How old are you?
I'm 37.
Yeah.
And so Aaron my husband always says I'm like almost 40. And I'm like, well, I have 3 more years, but he thinks that's really funny.
He really knows how to romance
Yeah, he's like, you know you're almost 40. But Leah in Edmond, Oklahoma, she sent this question on that. She said, I hear you talk about seasons in life.
Yeah.
We just did.
Yeah.
And just living there. What advice do you have for being content with the season that you're living in?
It's hard, right?
It's so hard.
I appreciate that question, Leah. I have a little piece of me that has some wanderlust. So I do kind of have the same tendency to be always looking over there or further down the road or over what you're doing and be like, oh, I wish I could be doing that, or I wish I could be there, or I just have one foot in the future all times. And that's really hard because it means you're about half present where you are. I hear people talk about this all the time, but I find the practice of it way harder than it sounds. But I don't know what I can send.
Cue the tears.
I mean, and so we are literally winding down here with this one. I mean, this is a big season coming to a close. And then after that, for us, we have 5 kids, and so we lose one every other year until they're gone. And so as I'm kind of coming to the close of a big season, I'm evaluating your exact question. And I'm realizing how precious and important it is to find contentment in the season you're in. And I think it's like a mental discipline, honestly. For me, there's not some magic pill I can take to miraculously make me content where I am. And so for me, it's just this boring, ordinary work of choice. Like, okay, right now, I've got this, this, and this. I'm in this season. The kids are this age. This is where my career life is. This is church. So I have to do the mental work of saying, what is wonderful about this season? What am I going to miss? Honestly, it's not hard. When I ask myself that question, it seems clear. What am I going to miss? What's really special about where I'm at right now? And so just this like daily practice of intentional gratitude, it sounds so plain, like that's not even a good answer, except it works. I mean, it really does work when you force your mind, you force your heart to see what is lovely and wonderful about where you are. You name it. And Boss Camp always says, write it down. Like, write it in a journal. There's something very centering about that practice. Do you do that?
I've struggled with this a lot, but I have a follow-up question about this, because I feel as though one of the hardest seasons for me to live in this was when I had little babies.
Oh, gosh.
Because all I wanted was my kids to go to school. All I wanted was for them to pee in the potty. All I wanted for them, all of these things. But you're now about to lose your first one. Do you look back? Like, you're ahead of us a little bit. So when you look back on those years of, like, wishing your toddlers were in kindergarten so you could have a little bit of free time?
Okay, the fact is, I did wish they were in kindergarten, and I was glad when they went.
Me too.
I'm an older kid mom.
So, me too, yes.
For me, I feel like that, because we have other friends who, like Noelle, we have really good friends who are like, give me another baby.
Right.
I want a baby in the house. I'm like, Lord, please don't.
Right. No, I'm done.
God, if you love me, if you have any affection for me.
I love big kids.
Do not bring me another baby. But I feel the pangs on losing my bigs, because I'm like, this is the parenting I've been waiting for all my life. Like, parenting the teens, they're so funny and fun. And so, but, however, I will tell you this. Just yesterday, my daughter Sydney, who's 15, she's a sophomore, she came into my office right here and got out 2 of the scrapbooks. I scrapbooked when they were little. I don't know.
I know you, and that right there cracks me up.
I don't know what to say. It was a weird time.
Everybody's scrapbook,
it was a little bit of a should for me. Anyhow, she got out her scrapbooks because she needed some baby pictures.
And were they all either in hearts or triangles or squares?
And diamonds. With stickers on them. They're all ruined. Yes. They're completely ruined. All of them. But I mean to tell you that I went through those, and they were so precious, and the memories were so sweet. And so I think there's a difference between being grateful for your season and finding contentment in it, and thinking every moment of that season has to be awesome. That, you know what I mean? Like, don't get trapped thinking just because you're having the crappiest day and you're like, you know what I hate? Toddlers.
Right.
That you've blown the whole season, because that's not really, that pressure's too much.
Yeah.
It's every day's not great.
Yeah.
It's really hard to raise babies. Sometimes it's really hard to raise teens. So being grateful and content where you are does not mean that every day is a picnic. And so let's not be self-defeating to think we have to be feeling flowery and rainbowy every second of every day. Because in that case, marriage is also doomed.
Right, everything.
I mean, friendship. So anyway, I think this is something we'll probably always battle. But there is enough to find gratitude in every single day, even the worst.
That's good. Write it down.
Write it down.
Write it down. Okay, run your race. Let's see. Jody Cunningham in Cincinnati, Ohio. Thank you for your question, Jody. She says this. How do you keep your faith first and answering your calling from God when the demands of daily life are so pressing, especially with little children running around? I feel like there's this theme here with women.
Honestly.
I mean, we're just saying, how do we do it all?
I'm serious. The pressure that we have both accepted from the outside and then put on ourselves and then consequently on each other is immense. It's so debilitating and it's defeating because not only is it unfair, it's impossible. It's so weird. This goes to something I've touched on earlier, and it's Jody, right?
Yeah, Jody.
Thank you, Jody, for asking, like, the whole faith first thing. I grew up in church, so that language is very familiar to me. Like, how do I keep God first in my life?
Right.
Like, God first, everything else second. I grew up with that too, and it feels very zealous, and it feels very committed, and like the language of a true disciple. Except I found I struggled with that in practice, because what does it really mean? Like, what does it mean for me to put God first? How does that pragmatically transfer to all my relationships? Because my life is lived with all these people.
Yeah.
My life is lived in the midst of deadlines and work and soccer and marriage and dinner. And what does it mean, putting God first? So for me, the older I get, the more holistically I think about my faith. I don't think of it as like, I'm going to pull out my faith.
Over here.
Yep. Here's my faith box.
Yeah.
As long as I make sure that this is bigger than my kid box and my husband box and my career box and my friend box, then I'm doing fine. I actually think that's even biblical. So rather than this whole idea of like, constantly feeling like all your other roles are usurping your faith, because that is how it's going to feel, because we have to live,
Right.
you know, like we live these demanding, busy lives. I think it's more a matter of being so like truly and genuinely in love with Jesus, like where you sincerely love him and you sincerely talk to him and listen to him and communicate with him and read his word, and he is dear to you. What that really means is that just bleeds out constantly into your other places. And so I don't know exactly what it means to keep that first, but I think there's something truthful there, that simply it informs the way you parent. It affects the way that you're in a marriage. It changes the way that you're a friend and a neighbor. And so checklist of things to do that's going to show you and everybody else that God is first in your life. It's not a checklist. I think it's a heart condition. And to me, that just comes from intimacy. So let's let ourselves off the hook with that a little bit.
And I think that's freeing too as well to feel, because we put these pressures on ourselves. And so then we can say, God is not first. He like is through every limb of me that comes out.
That's
like
it.
He's in everything.
That's right.
Yeah.
He's not a drawer that we open and shut.
So even when you're asking, when the demands of daily life are so pressing, like God's in that as well.
Totally. Right. I mean, we get to tap into that. I mean, right when you're thinking, you know what I want to do right now? Drive this car off the road into a tree and maybe kill us all. I'm just saying that sometimes you think that. Sometimes that is how
told you.
I've heard that people feel like that sometimes. Like there is something about being well connected to God that like sees you through those moments, right? And you can just dig deep. The well is deeper. And I can tell when I feel just emotionally disconnected from God, everything else gets a little bit more wobbly. It suffers. It really does. My patience is shorter. My fuse is shorter. I feel like I could despair more often. Like, you know what? Everything's ruined. We've ruined these kids. There's no hope for them. Our marriage is doomed. Nobody loves me.
My life is just nothing.
It's like constant PMS.
Yes.
Yeah. And so whatever that intimacy with God looks like for you, I just encourage you to keep it centric. Like, so for a lot of people, that is sitting out on your porch in the morning before anybody wakes up and just having stillness. Some people it's running. Some people it's being in nature and being outside. Some people really feel and connect with God through music. I mean, that's obviously your husband's gift. He brings that to us. He leads us to God. And so you just figure out your own love language with God. Don't let anybody tell you what that has to be. And then feed it.
Get in his word. I want to be one of the running people.
Me too. It's not. It's not. We're not.
Okay, let's go on. Rachel in New Braunfels, she asked this question about not buying. She said, as a single mom with 8 children.
Can we just pause?
I was thinking we have a moment for Rachel.
Single mom with 8 children.
As a single mom with 8 children, 5 still at home, 3 jobs, and 0 time to myself, what would you recommend to help me not lose hope? I'm defeated and full of shame most of the time, and my house is always a mess.
Oh my gosh, that's a big burden.
It is.
But I like what you touched on, Rachel, because I think the sense of defeat and shame is pretty universal, don't you, among women? I mean, even with women who don't carry your burden, or have someone else in the house to at least carry it with them, still you're touching on something that I identify with. And I think a lot of women do, this sense of just like, ugh, I'm doing everything poorly. For me, it's fun to think that through the lens of being an adult child. So I'm the oldest of 4, and we grew up without a lot of money. I mean, we were like poorish and lower middle class probably. And when I was in high school and my siblings were in middle and elementary school, my mom went back to college, and I mean, so we ate. I don't even know what we ate. Like, we just ate fast food, and so some of those traditional things that make us feel awesome were just pushed out. Like, the house wasn't ever clean, and everything was just kind of chaotic. It was just some sort of a chaotic time. But what's funny is that's how my mom talks about it when she talks about that season of life, and how she just struggled to do it all. But when I remember that season of life, that's not how I remember it all. Like, I remember, and to this day, am still being so proud of my mom. Like, my mom is awesome. I
Right.
almost said a bad word. Like, I almost did, but it's being recorded, so I didn't. Like, my mom's amazing.
Yeah.
She is chasing down a dream. She's parenting. She's a great wife. We had this great family. Like, we didn't have much, but we had a lot of love in our family. And so when I remember my childhood, it's like dream. All I remember is how great my parents were and how much they loved us and how fun and lively our family was. If I could go back and see it with my eyes, I would see laundry everywhere.
Right. Yeah.
I would see dirt.
Yeah.
I would see disgusting toilets. I mean, there was a lot of sisters in the house. None of that matters. Like, none of it matters. That does not inform my memory of childhood or my actual experience at all. And so
Right.
I think a lot of this is just stuff we put on our own selves.
How did she help you not see that? Do you think she made a conscious decision?
Like not to feel like, oh, the house is falling apart.
Right.
She never talked like that.
Yeah, that's what I'm asking.
Oh, yeah. My mom was never like, oh, I just can't do it all. I never heard her say that.
Mm-hmm.
She was just kind of like,
this is what it is.
If you want some clean underwear, I guess you better wash it.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to live in a filthy bathroom, good luck to you.
Yeah.
And so we didn't have this sense of constant guilt and shame in the house that she brought in feeling bad about her. Didn't.
Yeah.
One tiny bit. And so I think we can control the narrative a little bit in our own homes. I mean, even when we are overwhelmed, even when there are dishes in the sink, even when there are 1,000 moving parts and we're struggling to do it all, even then we can say, this house is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
You kids are superb. We are living an awesome life.
Mm-hmm.
This is a good story. And I'm telling you, you just speak it into existence. Mm-hmm. And so I think a lot of this we control.
Yeah, and I was going to say, we bought into this lie that kids have to have this magical childhood that seems like Disneyland every day.
Does any kid on earth, by the way, speaking of even not magical, does any kid care if you have dishes in your sink?
No, my kids have never said anything.
They wouldn't even know.
No.
I mean, the things that we care about are not actually affecting our people.
Yeah.
They're just affecting maybe our perception.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think we have permission to say, you know what? This is the best I can do. Somewhere in the book, and I can't remember which essay it is, I gave you my philosophy of
I think it's next week we're going to talk about it. Yeah.
My philosophy of raising kids, which I think also applies to this, which is this: good enough.
Yep.
All right, good enough.
Mm-hmm.
This house is good enough.
Love it.
This kitchen is good enough. All these things that we're juggling, I'm doing good enough in it, and that's going to be
free. That's going to free you up, Rachel,
Yep.
right there. Okay, one more question.
One more question.
You ready?
Yeah.
All right, and the essay, Tell the Truth. This is from Krista, and she says this: Tell the truth was so powerful and life-giving for me. It helped me speak some hard things out loud. What truths do we need to speak to ourselves regularly?
Great.
We've done a lot of that today.
We sure have. I have ministered to women and led women for about 20 years now. And this is just something I know for a fact. I really do. This isn't an idea. It's not a theory. It's not something I hope to be true. I know for a fact that when women get together and they're honest, they say good and hard and true things, it sets everyone free. I mean, it is so incredibly powerful that I can't hardly think of anything else. And so it's funny because these very things that we don't want to give voice to because we're embarrassed or we feel alone in it. We feel like nobody else has ever struggled like this before. Nobody else's marriage is on the rocks. Nobody else's kid is going off the rails. Nobody else has a private addiction. Nobody else has ever had an abortion. Nobody. We think that. We feel alone, like we're on an island. And the truth of the matter is there is nothing that you've experienced or are currently experiencing that somebody else isn't as well. And so there's this emancipation that happens when women start saying those things out loud. I've watched it with my eyes, watched kind of like polite Christian conversation be going on in a group, in a living room, wherever, and then I watch one brave girl step up and say something hard, like truthful, but hard to say and hard to hear. And it is like magic 100% of the time. Like all the barriers come down. People start going, me too. Yeah. Me too. Okay, well, mine wasn't like that, but this is what I experienced. Or, I mean, it is this freedom, and it's contagious, and it really creates genuine community, and it sets our hearts free. Like all those lies that we keep, we want to protect them because we don't want anyone else to feel bad about us or think bad about us. It actually keeps it's more imprisoning. It puts us deeper into bondage.
Yeah. You're in bondage to that.
You're in bondage to the secret.
Yeah.
And then you're in bondage to the bondage.
Mm-hmm.
It's terrible.
Yeah.
And so really there's nothing, none of us have done anything new. We're not the first human to break. None of us are the first one to ever have an affair. Mm-hmm. None of us are the first one to ever completely lose your crap with your kids. I mean, nobody. Everything is common to man. And so being able to create a community, even if it's a small community, a sub-community, this doesn't have to be your whole life. Not everybody can be trusted with all like your precious content. Mm-hmm. But among trusted people who love you, where you are really working hard to develop and create a strong and genuine community, I'm telling you, this is the way to live. I've had this now for so long. Jamie and I have this with our friends. We have said some crazy stuff to each other. I mean, we know about our darkest moments, and I have now been a part of this kind of community for so many years that I cannot imagine going backwards. I cannot imagine being trapped in my own mind again, and in my own life and in my own experience. So I'm telling you, the risk is worth the reward. I promise you. You can write me and thank me later because I'm telling you the truth.
So true. I always say vulnerability leads to vulnerability.
It does.
And so when I am vulnerable with you,
yes,
it allows you to be vulnerable with me.
It does.
Because there's a safe space that's been created.
It so does. And then ironically, it makes us stronger. Mm. So the very thing that we think is going to make us weaker by admitting it ultimately makes us stronger and more courageous. And so I can't say what's true right now. Nobody will understand, or nobody will identify, or they'll just be horrified. You are going to be so surprised how many other people are sitting around you holding in such important stuff that they would love to have the freedom to share. So I say go for it, and you'll be surprised at what you can create.
Yeah, give yourself permission.
Totally.
Jen, that was week 1.
Yeah.
Okay, so each week we're going to be going through a different section of the book. You can still get these on the site.
Yep.
Great books. These are great for gifts.
Great for gifts.
Gifts.
Absolutely. Christmas
like
is actually
Santa.
coming up.
I know,
it's not even that many weeks away.
Around the corner. But next week is going to be section 2, and it's called All These People Who Live in Your House.
Parenting, marriage. This is really dealing with your actual space and your closest people, it's always easy.
Right.
Always easy. I mean, what is there even to say? Every day is a joy.
It is. We're going to write down what we're grateful for.
That's.
And we might have some special guests.
Yeah. Just maybe some people popping in. I don't know.
Little people. Okay, guys. Thank you so much. We love you. We love your questions. Jen, thank you for doing this.
You too.
Remember, use the hashtag FTL Book Club. And guys, we'll see you next week for week 2. Bye.
Bye.